As early as 1966, when Leary was still a media darling and LSD was a mysterious, relatively unknown substance, several San Francisco-based rock groups were experimenting with acid-inspired rock. One such aggregation was the Grateful Dead. Percussionist Mickey Hart recalls that in the spirit of the times, musical ability wasn't nearly as important as good vibes.
When you were in a band like that, you didn't have to rely on what you did or even know what you were going to do, except just be. And there was no mistakes. And everybody came out a winner. You know, there was no losers in this kind of music because we didn't know what the hell we were doing in the first place. And everybody just basically played their instruments for a few years. I was only playing drum set for a few years. Jerry was playing guitar for a few months. Phil was only playing for 3 weeks, his bass guitar. And he was still in high school. You know, 65, 66. You know, so everybody was young on their instruments. So we all learned together. And of course, everybody was getting into psychedelics in those days. So the use of psychedelics altered our case of reference. It made us be able to it opened the famous door of perception for us. And it made us get into places that we never even thought existed before. And with the coming of psychedelics and the finding of a higher development and higher order of real-time development, like in Indian music, the two came together and it was just irresistible. You know, you could not resist it.
The Grateful Dead have been attracting new listeners since their legendary performances on the streets of the Haight-Ashbury during the Summer of Love. The group practices a low-key alchemy that many fans interpret as an almost religious experience. According to guitarist Jerry Garcia, the Dead themselves feed on this live energy.
There is a place that we recognize, which we feel is maybe borders on the supernatural or the religious or whatever, you know, whatever words you want to use, that's part of what been part of our thrust all along, you know. And I hate to have a title for it because I hate to limit it, really. And it remains to be, it isn't something which we control. It's something which happens sort of its own free will or of its own accord. It isn't, you know, it isn't something that we manipulate and control in that kind of way. It's something that we hope will happen, and it does once in a while, and we get off tremendously, you know. I mean, that's the result.
Despite their appeal to legions of deadheads, Garcia sees the band constantly misinterpreted by the rock press.
The Grateful Dead is kind of an embarrassment, I think, to the journalistic, the rock journalism at large, you know what I mean? It kind of, I think that rock journalism wants more than anything else for something new to arrive, you know, and most of the journalists would like to be the people who discover this new phenomena, you know, and it's embarrassing for them, for us to be so successful after all this time, and in fact for our audience to be good. I think it might even infuriate some people. I really feel that we're sort of a special case, that we really aren't in that world, you know what I mean, that trendy world of you know, rock fanism, you know what I mean. We're just not part of that. I mean, we never have been, really. Whenever you have a situation where musicians can stay together and the same musicians can play with each other for a long time, it just special stuff happens, it's unfortunate, really, that rock and roll doesn't provide more or I don't know what, you know, or that more people aren't in that kind of situation of being able to play together for a long time. It really does wonders for the music, you know. We're lucky, and the Grateful Dead is real lucky insofar as the audience has great patience with us, you know, I mean, on that level. So we're allowed to do things like that, to experiment, you know, an awful lot. So it's nice. It's nice to have an opportunity in which music in which you have the long view. You can take the long view. It's a piece of music, and you can see a piece of music developing over years, you know.
What has developed with the Grateful Dead is as much a state of mind as it is a musical statement. In their tenacity, the Dead have formed lifelong partnerships with their fans, which transcend typical artist-consumer relationships. Through each succeeding year, the Dead seem to say, as long as you're around to enjoy the music, we'll be around to play.
Thanks a lot. See you in a little while.